What is your soul's invisible lineage? What I'm after here is imagining the fishing line going down to the deep pools where the salmon of wisdom is. What's the line going back through one's own soul? Remember, the soul is deep and it's ancient. It's immediate and it's ancient. And so everyone has a lineage. There are, clear, um, observable lineages. You have them in the Zen tradition. You have them in many forms of spiritual tradition, lineages. But there's also the lineage of the poets. There's the lineage of the healers. And we're not supposed to feel all alone in the world. We're supposed to realize that we are connected back to the ancient source, back to the old ways of knowing. So one of the things to think about is, what is your lineage? I remember being asked once what my lineage was, and I was thinking, well, I don't know, poor Irish, recovering Catholic people, no, no. In my case, the lineage is the poets and the storytellers. When I was young, I'd be driving around, driving a truck, and I'd have poems next to me. I'd be memorizing the poems while I was driving a truck. I didn't know it, but that was my lineage. I hope that makes sense. Everyone has a lineage. What we're looking for is not simply out there. We're actually threaded to the things that are the ground of our own nature, where the vitality is waiting to be found. What's your inner lineage? Something just to work on. Okay. Another way to say that is, what ties you to the ancient knowing? The healers, the poets, the saints. Imagine what it is that's your lineage. Write it down. Think about it. Read about it. Just a way of keeping a thread to the depths that provide a unity that we can't find in the world. Here's another one. What gives your heart coherence? So there's an idea called heart coherence. When the world is this troubled and divided, it kind of divides the heart. A lot of people are having chest pain now that don't have COVID. There's like weight on our chest. There's pain in the heart. So then and the modern world, because it's so speeded up and everything's happening so fast, and it's happening fast because we're at the end of an era, and the cycling of things gets tighter and tighter and goes faster and faster at the end. That's part of what happens. And so all of that is problematic for the heart and for the rhythm of the heart. And so there's something called heart coherence. I used to go, when we were allowed to travel around and gather people, I'd go to a certain town, and there was a man who would come to the session every time, sit right in the front and really carefully look. And one time I asked him, why do you sit there and look like that? He says, I'm watching you go into coherence. And I said, whoa, thank you. And he said, and you know when it happens? No, I don't. He said, as soon as you start drumming, you go into coherence. And I said, how do you know that? He said, I'm a heart doctor, and I study the coherence of the heart. And he said, if you come to my studio, I'll show you. So I went. And of course, I was late getting going. And then I stopped and got a big thing of coffee. And then I was rushing and drinking the coffee and cutting between cars. And so when I arrived there, and he asked me to give him my finger, and he put the clip on my finger, which was connected to the computer, which was showing the rhythm of the heart. It was so erratic. It was scary. And he said, that's how we all live now, all erratic hearts. And then he said, all right, now put the coffee down, close your eyes, imagine the most beautiful place in the world. So I closed my eyes, and something came right to my mind, a place I had been where I had found this waterfall and this stream, and I just jumped in and just bathed in it and felt like I had been born again. My psyche went right back there. And then he said, okay, open your eyes. And I looked at the screen, and here was this coherent rhythm in the heart. So heart coherence. You can find it simply by closing the eyes and imagining what's beautiful, or a place that was felt, and the feeling of that place went fully into the body, and it now lives inside the body and can be tapped in again. That's what he was showing me. So finding ways to feel heart coherence. Sometimes that can be done with the breath, but also I'm suggesting it can be done with the imagination, imagining something that was so beautiful that it gave coherence to the heart. What gives you heart coherence? If we have heart coherence, we're not as anxious, we're not as defeated, we're not as worn out as most of us are by the issues in the world. Here's another one. What does your inner disciple want you to devote yourself to? In other words, to get through hard times, to be creative, we need discipline. Now, it's important to understand that discipline doesn't mean, you get everything right, you get up early and you do that. That's not discipline, that's punishment. Discipline comes from the word disciple. So discipline comes from being connected to the disciple, and the disciple that's in everyone is like that eternal youth. The disciple is the one that's devoted. And so what does your disciple want you to do means, what is the inner disciple want to be the practice, want to be the daily thing that will bring some discipline to life. I mean, what's going on in the world is so shocking day to day. No matter whether you look at nature or culture, it's too much. It is too much. And so what does the inner disciple want us to be devoted to? And that's part of figuring out one's own nature. I'm not saying it's easy, but I am saying it's there. And that disciple is the devoted one, the one that actually knows, like in the story, when young Finn gets devoted to fishing for the salmon of wisdom. It's not a strict thing, it's actually a fluid thing. What does the inner disciple want? So this is all about knowing what those inner parts are. And I understand that often those parts have been repressed and suppressed because the family didn't like them, because when they come out, we got criticized. I know it's like that, but still we have to find them, or else we are defeated by our own inner critics, and we're defeated by aspects of our story that we really should have left behind. I'm just trying to be encouraging and suggesting that the way to get through things involves these imaginations. What's the disciple and the devotion of the disciple that's part of our own heart and soul. And then this might be the last one. And this is one I started to think about, and it's weird in some way. But for instance, I found myself, when you get older, you lose balance. It has to do with the inner ear. It actually happens as part of age. But when I was younger, I used to, for some reason, like to stand on one foot and do it for a long time. And I found myself doing that again because I wanted to, I don't know why. I was trying to balance something in my body, but also I was trying to experiment with balance. And then I realized that kind of balancing on one leg and doing it for a long time is a practice of the sadhus in India. So one of the greatest things in India, to me, is the idea of the sadhus, sadhu. And they're those who kind of walk away from regular life, and they go into some kind of spiritual seeking. And there's all kinds of forms of it, and that's why I love it. It's a soul-based thing, even though it's spiritual, because there's no end to the kinds of sadhus that there could be. Over time, it's been somewhat codified. But the origin of it was a person would reach they say typically 50 years of age. Let's say it could change for different people. But anyway, what happens at the point of the becoming the sadhu is they walk away from all responsibilities. They walk away from the life of a householder or the life of a regular citizen, we would say here. And they follow some instinct of spirit, some imagination. And they do some really strange things, which is partly charming. But what I like about it is when you go back far enough, it wasn't clear. There wasn't clear steps. It was a pathless path. And so what I understand about sadhu is it's letting go. It's letting go. You walk away from all the weight you carried and all the responsibilities you had and all the service you were doing. And you begin to do these strange things that are spiritual connective practices. So I'm not saying, okay, as of tomorrow, everybody just walk away. Just it won't work. Most of us couldn't do it. But I'm not suggesting that. What I'm suggesting is everyone has an inner sadhu. Everyone has a part inside that knows how to let things go. I hope this makes sense. This is my attempt at being practical. So everybody has an inner shaman element. Everybody has an inner sadhu. The sadhus are practicing what's called moksha. Moksha means letting it all go. So that the old idea was, as you get older and you're approaching the likely end of your life, it doesn't make sense to keep carrying things. You let things go because you're letting the world go pretty soon and your body go. And the idea was, why wait until the end? Why not get a start on it? What I'm thinking is, we're at the end of an era. Some letting go is required. We have to have some practices that allow us, through the days and the weeks that we're going to continue to struggle with everything, that allow us to let some things go. One of the ideas, we had the river in the story. An old idea is you enter the river and you let go the banks. That was in Kabir's poem too. And so I'm suggesting find the inner sadhu and see how that part of us knows how to let go. And that's, to me, a practice that could be useful now. It doesn't mean there isn't compassion. It doesn't mean that a few minutes later I'm picking up the weight that I carry, or I'm trying to be helpful to someone else. It's just that if we can't let go, for some people that may be going into ecstatic things. I don't know. You have to define it for yourself. But if we can't do that, that means we're burdened all the time. That means we're defeated a lot. That means we're crushed by the weight of the world. That means we get burned out. That means we're exhausted all the time. How do we let go? I'm suggesting imagining the inner sadhu knows how to do it. All right. So I don't know where we are. What I've been trying to do is say there's a reason why everything is so divided. It's part of this end of the era, the in-between space, and then the recreation, new world view. And we're here to go through it, and we can only go through it in our own way, in a sense. And knowing something, connecting somehow to the uniqueness of our own soul and the deep self that's connected to that, is one of the few ways in a world that's divided and increasingly falling apart to have a sense of underlying unity, to have a sense of peace, to have a refuge in one's own heart and soul. That's what I'm trying to suggest.